you so much, Lydia and Vanessa, for making sure that this huge space was a safe space for all of us to have conversations and connect with each other later this afternoon and today through all the stories that we're going to be hearing.
Let's give another round of applause for Lydia and Vanessa. Woo! Yeah, how are you guys doing? Yeah? All right, we're just getting ramped up, and now we have our first keynote speaker of the day, which I'm super excited to introduce to you. It's a friend of mine and someone I respect a lot, Shilpa Narayan. And Shilpa is a gender, sexuality, women's studies, and psychology student at Simon Fraser University. At the age of 12, she was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder, facing tremendous adversity and struggling with self-harm and suicide ideation. That's not easy. Shilpa became an active voice for mental health through the support of her teachers and counselors. Instead of calling her depression and anxiety a struggle, she began to call it her journey. And I met Shilpa 2 years ago. We both met Shilpa 2 years ago, right here at Balancing Our Minds. And she was in your seat as a grade 12 student in high school. She just showed up and got inspired. Last year, she volunteered at the event. And since then, she's been very involved with social media, active on social media, volunteering, working, and speaking around the topics of mental health and wellness. She has created workshops in high schools for students to connect for wellness with resources to help and create a course for students who are facing adversity to not only have a safe space, but also develop coping skills and strategies that would benefit their mental wellness. So again, it's an absolute honor to welcome Shilpa to the stage. Let's give her a huge, warm welcome to Shilpa.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you to Sarah and Brent for such a wonderful introduction. And it's an honor to be here this morning. So 8 years ago, I thought the road to recovery was impossible. At the age of 12, in elementary school, I began to experience major depressive disorder and severe generalized anxiety. I made a home out of rock bottom, piling pain and ugly words on top of each other. My heart was broken. On the outside, people saw me as someone with a positive outlook and always smiling. In reality, my anxiety told me that I wasn't good enough. It took me a long time to understand what was going on. I was scared, angry, and confused. And depression and anxiety paralyzed me physically, emotionally, and academically. Going to school was scary. And to top all of this off, I was in the midst of transitioning from elementary school to high school. It was already as hard as it was to go through this transition. But having negative thoughts constantly in your head telling you that you are not good enough is not only exhausting, but damaging. I managed to transition into high school, but I knew that this was not the end of the struggle. Grade 8, as we all know, is a challenging year due to the new environment. It is like you are starting all over again. You leave behind your comfort zone of elementary school and move into this big building where you have to meet new students, new teachers, and build your foundation once again. Well, I managed to stumble my way through grade 8. I became so busy in the concept of survival that I didn't realize that my mental health was going to have another turn. I went to school, sat in my classes, and just listened. I created a routine: go to school, sit in class, come home, sleep, repeat. I continued to suffer in silence. And the summer of grade 8 came and passed. It was time to start grade 9. New year, new me, I thought. But the stigma was so embedded in my head that it made me to believe that this was just all a phase and that it'll eventually be over. However, I once again found myself constantly having that voice in my head telling me to quit school because I might not be smart enough or good enough or just worthy enough. And I went from attending my classes every day to trying to come up with every excuse to not go to my classes. And things became so bad that I just became helpless. I didn't necessarily know what to do. However, there was one day that I will always remember. I was in my grade 9 social studies classroom, and it was a day where I knew that I wasn't doing too well, and I was exhausted and burnt out. My teacher and I began to have a regular conversation. She asked me how my day was, how my other classes are going, but I sat there in silence. I didn't give her an answer. And I looked at her and I said, I think I need some help. And I broke down. At that very moment, she told me that we were going to see a school counselor right away, and she was going to help me get that need and get that help that I am so in desperate need of. And if it wasn't for my vulnerability to allow myself to connect and that teacher's willingness to listen, I wouldn't have began to see mental health professionals for a very long time. She was the first person that taught me that stigma should never stand in the way of our mental wellness and connecting to others to get the help that we need and truly deserve. Slowly but surely, the recovery process began. There were still days that I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't go to class, and some days I would just sit in class and I wouldn't really be able to do my homework. And in grade 10 and 11, I wasn't even sure if I was going to graduate on time or even graduate at all. Nevertheless, there was something inside of me, and I knew that there was some sort of light. No matter how many times I wanted to give up on myself, there was something that kept me going. And I found the courage to reach out to individuals and share my struggles to get the help that I needed. This was the hardest thing that I have ever done, but it was the most rewarding. In the midst of my therapy in the 10th grade, I recognized something that really changed my perspective about my struggles. I realized that we are not our labels. I was so scared to reach out at first and connect for my wellness because I was afraid. I was afraid that I would be given a label, and I was scared that the stigma associated with mental health and mental illness would follow me, that I would be labeled crazy. But I finally became to understand and overcome the initial stigma at the end of grade 11 and made the decision to seek further help from psychologists and therapists in the community. The first step I learned is the hardest step. So instead of calling my depression and my anxiety my struggle, I began to call it my journey. That is when I decided to use my story as a way to support others in their mental health journey. I became an active voice for mental health advocacy. Before I graduated high school, I created workshops for students to connect with resources and help to create a course for students who are facing adversity to not only have a safe space, but also to develop coping skills and strategies that would benefit their mental wellness. My hope was to make school a place where students didn't feel that it was their worst nightmare. Although I have graduated, my advocacy has not stopped. I now attend Simon Fraser University, where I'm working towards my Bachelor of Arts in Gender, Sexuality, Women's Studies, and Psychology. And I'm working towards my Certificate of Social Justice. I would like to become a drama therapist. With the help of my teachers and counselors, I have realized that giving back to my community by being a drama therapist is the most natural thing for me to do, because I would like to show others who are in the same position where I once was to understand that you are not alone and that there is help. It was never my fault that these things happened to me. It was never my fault that I was depressed or I was anxious. And these things didn't happen because I was weak. I am fighting a battle and have become stronger because of it. I've learned that relapses are real. I've learned that sometimes the darkness does win, yet one lost battle does not mean a lost war. Everything takes time. There are still days that I can't really get out of bed, days where that voice comes creeping back, and I still see a counselor every week. But I've learned that that is okay. I've learned that admitting that we are scared, weak, or losing control is never shameful. We're human. We will often go through our lives questioning what we do or not exactly knowing, but that is absolutely okay. Vulnerability is powerful. Vulnerability is what helps us to create those relationships, to create those connections that will help and guide our mental wellness. I want you to know that we are here to learn and grow, but I want you to know that you are not your struggles. Your struggles are only a chapter in your journey. And please, if you can take one thing away today, please honor your journey. Before I conclude, you are so lucky to have individuals in your life, whether it be teachers, administrators, counselors, youth workers, parents, guardians, partners, or friends, that are there to help you connect for wellness and give you the support that we all need and deserve. If it weren't for my teachers, counselors, and my family helping me and giving me that support that I needed from the very beginning, I really would not be where I am today, sharing my story with all of you. I encourage you all, if you are struggling in any way, whether it be personal or even in school, there are amazing resources, and these individuals are here for you. For me, it was my teachers and counselors who helped me connect for wellness. Through their mentorship and support, I was able to then recognize that I too have the potential to help others connect and work to build a community where we don't have to hide, where we don't have to be afraid to reach out. And most importantly, where mental health is a priority. All it took was that one conversation like the one that I had back in grade 9, and trust me, doors will open. I am proud to be where I am today, and I wouldn't be who I am if it weren't for the challenges that I have faced. It's been 8 years since my journey began, and I truly look forward to the future because I want to give back using my story, what the people like you have given me: hope, strength, and courage. Thank you.
Well done. Amazing. Wow. That was amazing. And that's, I mean, to me, such an example and a role model of a story where just opening up that dialogue early on when you really don't want to. And maybe it's not yourself that needs to do that, but maybe it's a friend you know needs to do that. And maybe you can be that person that opens up that dialogue with them. Maybe we can all do that with someone. And so that's inspiring. So who's inspired by that? Let's give another round of applause for Shilpa.
So we are going to take a break because all of you have been listening so intently. It's going to be a 20-minute break. And so during that break, we just wanted to tell you that the bags that you were given when you came in, inside of those bags is a sheet of paper that has the discussion questions on them for this afternoon. You don't need to take them out right now. But we're just encouraging you to look at those questions over the break so that you really know what we're going to be talking about this afternoon during the discussion. Those questions also have a whole bunch of relation to what Shilpa was talking about, especially the first question that's about personal wellness. So just check those out and just think on them if you have time during the break.
Also, you can feel free to visit the resource booth, and don't forget the supportive listeners. If you are triggered by anything, need someone to talk to, those people in the yellow, you can find a volunteer, talk to those supportive listeners, and
in Suite 104 through the glass doors on the left. Please be back to your seats by 11.
Thank you, everybody.